Should the T from LGBT be removed? This is my little collab. I've asked 3 amazing people. They're kind of the excluded members of the LGBT community. You can easily be kicked out of the LGBT community if you have the wrong ideas. And I thought it would be perfect to hear those ideas because I like those ideas. So here they are.
As a lesbian, do I think that the T should be included or discluded from the LGBT acronym? I go back and forth with this. I think that having the T in there does confuse people because it has nothing to do with sexual orientation unless the person transitions in some way and then still dates somebody of the same gender, same sex. That makes sense. I think the reason that trans people or transsexual people got connected to the LGB people in the first place was at Stonewall. Everybody was together, they were fighting for the same rights. I think that lesbians and gay men specifically already push the idea of a gender expression binary. Gay men tend to act or dress more effeminate, and lesbians tend to act and dress more, quote, masculine. And I think that trans people felt more included because at that point, I don't think that there were many people undergoing actual sex changes. I think that many of them were just, quote, cross-dressers. I think now we have a much better understanding of what transsexualism is. And technically, it is very different than sexual orientation. But I think at its very core, it came from the idea that we can be different and we can still be treated equally.
Oh, should LGB drop the T? This is something I'm hearing a lot of people talking about, and I would be lying if I said I didn't see where they're coming from. But for me personally, should we drop the T? The answer is no. Here's why. I totally understand people's exasperation with the trans lobby. Many of us are just flat out exhausted by trans mania, especially when many of the things that they're pushing fly in the face of gay people being accepted. I mean, it's gotten to a point where it's so extreme that you have trans activists arguing that sexuality is a choice and you can choose who you're attracted to. For many gay people, it feels like a bit of a bait and switch. You know, I just wanted to date dudes, and now I'm being told that I need to support toddlers having sex changes and compelled speech laws, and I didn't agree to any of that. Gender and sexuality are two very different things, so should they have been combined in the first place? Maybe not. But the fact is, they are combined. Let's say we remove the T. Now it's just LGB. Okay, well, that still doesn't solve the root problem. The root problem is a radical, controlling, authoritarian ideology and an entire industry of special interest groups who have centralized power over our entire personhood. So simply scapegoating trans people for this entire ideology just doesn't solve the problem. The fight isn't gay versus trans. It's liberty versus authority. It's individuality versus suffocating conformity. Logical trans people are our greatest friends and allies in this fight. Because what reasonable gay people and reasonable trans people want is essentially the same thing, the right to be an individual. If you allow radical gender ideologues to taint the way that you view all trans people, you are letting them win. If we're going to fight extremism, if we're going to push back against groupthink, and if we're going to change this culture, the only way we're going to do that is together.
Dropping the T is not an idea I am actively against. However, I do also believe that there are many other letters that I am way more concerned with coming into the LGBT community than I am with trans groups. There are more groups, such as non-binary people, who I believe we need to advocate for research and evidence about to truly determine whether they belong here or not, especially as the radical non-binary people who are shown in the media tend to make trans people who have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria look like a joke. There are also multiple sexualities, such as pansexuality and omnisexuality, that actively harm bisexuals, who I believe we, as a united community, need to take a stance against. As us people who haven't been sucked into the welcome everyone attitude that has now been branded onto the LGBT community of fewer in numbers, I think dropping the T would complicate this section of the LGBT community further, and for that reason I think dropping the T is a conversation for the future and not the present.
You would think that as a trans person, I would be extremely offended and extremely affected by this LGB alliance wanting to kick out the T, but I'm not. I completely understand where they're coming from. A lot of these trans activists, they are so annoying listening to, so I completely understand that they don't want to listen to that anymore. But the thing is, we all have the right to speak our minds, and kicking the T out is literally stupid because not all trans people are alike. what you see in the media. And also, if we're playing along with kicking out the T, can you imagine leaving the T alone and there would be something called the T community? First of all, that's not gonna happen because we have to think about all the genders out there. So it would be called like T and B. Like, I don't know, but it's definitely gonna be a long ass title. Demonizing the entire T would not do anything good, I think. I think we should fight against radical ones, just like in any situation ever. Like, always fight radical people. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'm always curious to know what you think.